ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरि ओम। We were studying the first sutra of the Brahma Sutras, Athato Brahma Jignasa. And now, here the question which is now asked is whether the knowledge of Dharma or the inspiration which leads to the performance of Vedic rituals or sacrifices, which is in Sanskrita called Chodana, whether that knowledge is necessary, whether it is a prerequisite to understand Brahman, to venture into an inquiry of Brahman. So to have the desire of knowing Brahman, whether as a prerequisite to that desire, we need to have the knowledge of Dharma. That is the question. And Shankaracharya, Bhagavad-pada Shankaracharya, he sets aside that question. He says, no, you don't need. Because even before having the knowledge or before getting the knowledge of Dharma, or even before getting the desire to know Dharma, so Dharma Sutras or Mimamsa Sutras, they start with this sutra, Athatho Dharma Jignasa. So even before having the desire to know Dharma, a person who has studied Vedanta, that is Upanishads, can have, it's quite plausible or possible to have the knowledge or the desire to know Brahman. Dharma Jignasayaha Pragapi Adhita Vedantasya Brahma Jignasa Upapattehe. That is the logic. So there, here again, Yatha cha, the example is given. Just like Pradeyadi Avadananam Anantarya Niyamaha. In the case of rituals, there is a krama. There is a krama. The krama is of apportioning different parts of an animal. So Hridaya Adi, heart, etc. Avadana means apportion. So there is a order. Here there is no order. It has been told. And then afterwards, after establishing this, then finally the question comes, okay, we understand that it is not Dharma which is necessary before the desire to know Brahman. But as you are saying that something is necessary before the desire to know Brahman, because Atha does not mean Mangalacharana according to you. Atha also does not mean that it is some kind of a preparation or something. But you are saying that Atha means Anantarya, means it is something which has to be there preceding this desire to know Brahman. So what is that? So what is that? You are also saying that Atha is not Adhikara Artha, means it's not just a beginning like in the Yoga Sutras. So what is it? So if it is succession, then what is it that should be there before Atha? Athato Brahma Jignasa. What is it that should be there before the desire to know Brahman? So that is what last time we saw. Uchyate. It is being told. Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha iha amutra bhoga viragah shamadamadi sadhana sampad mumukshutvam cha. So here we were going into the different meanings of Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka. So Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka means what is real, what is unreal. The Viveka or discerning between the real and the unreal. Iha Amutra Artha Bhoga Viraga. Viraga had dispassion regarding Artha Bhoga, regarding experience, the experience of different sense objects, both in this life and hereafter. And then Shama, Dama, Adi, Sadhana, Sampad. So the wealth of the sadhana or practices of Shama, Dama, Adi, that is practices starting with Shama, Dama, etc. Since these things have been explained in various primary texts or preliminary texts, Shankaracharya is not going into detail. But let us see what are they. Shama means Shama, Dama, Adi. So Shama means control of the mind. Control of the mind. Mind is the most prominent thing involved in all our sense experience. Because suppose we are all now sitting here discussing Brahma Sutra, but suppose though our senses, that is ears are hearing, eyes are watching, but suppose our mind is not present there, then we would not be able to, we would be unable to understand what is going on. So the presence of mind is paramount. It's quite important. And so mind is considered to be the sixth sense organ. And controlling mind means we can control all our experiences. It is connected to the previous one. Iha amutra artha bhoga viraga. Artha means sense objects. Bhoga means experience. Viraga means detachment. So one has to be detached or dispassionate about experiencing sense objects. How can one be detached in such a manner if one cannot control one's mind? If one cannot control one's mind, then the mind will just go follow in the wake of sense organs. Indriyanam hi charatam yan manaha anuvidhiyate tadasya harati pragyam vayur navam iva ambasi. Lord Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. So one who follows in the wake of, just follows the sense organs, that person loses direction and is like a rudderless boat caught in a storm in the water. So it is moving this hither and thither. It's moving from this direction to the other direction. And that is why just after Iha Amutra Bhoga Viraga, it is necessary that one should have control of mind, Shama. Now there are some people who say that all this is not necessary, because after all my true nature is Brahman, Atman. Why should I at all control my mind? So controlling my mind is wrong, because my true nature is Atman, Brahman. I don't need to control anything. I don't need to control anything. I can just remember that my true nature is Atman and Brahman. Why should I do all this sadhana? For such people who claim to be Advaita Vedantins also, the first objection is that if you are Advaita Vedanti, then you have to follow what the propounder of Advaita Vedantin, that is Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya, says, and that is very clear here that he talks about these spiritual disciplines. So it is not that you can just say that no, Aham Brahmasmi, so I don't need to do anything. That is something which is according to parampara, tradition. So you have to do because your guru says so, your person who has propounded, the proponent of Advaita Vedanta says so. Going on the side of logic, then what should we do? Logically speaking, then yes, if you think that you are Brahman, are you experiencing misery? That's the question. Are you experiencing misery? If you experience misery, then you have not established yourself in the knowledge that you are Brahman. It cannot be that you are both Brahman and you are experiencing misery. That cannot go together. So if you are experiencing misery, what kind of misery? The person will say, you see, I am Brahman, so I don't need to do any sadhana. Then that person will immediately say, but you see, I have got this back pain. I am unable to walk. So yeah, so you have back pain. That means that back pain is not only debilitating your physical activity, it is also affecting your mental activity. That means you are very much identified with your body-mind existence. So you have not understood that you are Brahman. And that is why this spiritual discipline is necessary. These disciplines are not necessary to make you understand that you are Brahman, but they are necessary for you to remove the ignorance that is covering the knowledge of Brahman. So knowledge of Brahman is not brought about because anything which is born will die eventually. So that is transitory. Knowledge of Brahman is not brought about. The ignorance, avidya, ajnana, maya, adhyasa is removed. So shama, control of mind is necessary. Many people would say, why control the mind? Let it go as it wants. So that is a disaster. That is a disaster. You cannot let the mind go as it wants. Then Dhamma, control of sense organs, restraint of sense organs or control of sense organs. Only if you can control the mind can you effectively or properly or control your sense organs. So control of sense organs is automatically derived from control of the mind. Then Shama, Dhamma, Uparati. Once you have controlled your sense organs, Uparama or Uparati is possible. That means you can withdraw the sense organs from the sense objects. You can withdraw it. So there is suppose a plate of jalebi kept in front of you, and suppose you love jalebis very much, but though you see jalebi very tempting, you can withdraw your mind from the jalebis. Generally, people will withdraw some jalebis from the plate, but here Uparama means you can withdraw the mind from jalebis. That is Uparama, Uparati or Uparama. And then how do you do it on a sustained manner? That's the question. You cannot do it on a sustained manner if you cannot forbear suffering or misery. If you cannot forbear, or if you cannot tolerate or accept, not tolerate, but accept misery, suffering. So there comes titiksha. Titiksha. Sahanam sarva dukkhanam apratikara purvakam chinta vilaparahitam sa titiksha nigadyate, says Bhagavad-pada Shankaracharya in his Viveka Chudamani. Titiksha. So here Sahanam sarva dukkhanam, it is very easy to do. Most of us, we do that. We suffer the miseries of, say, somebody is married, so spouse, suffer the miseries of one's children. Means troubles caused by children, troubles caused by spouse, troubles caused by boss, troubles caused by neighbor, troubles caused by relatives. All that people suffer because, Swamiji, you don't know, you are in an ashrama, but if you were in the household life, then you would have known that to do sansara, in Bengali there is a usage, sanshar korte gele. Literally, if you translate to do samsara, it will become literal translation, meaning nothing basically. So if you want to live a samsaric life, why would you want to live a samsaric life? That very expression is wrong. Means you are a grihastha. You are living a household life, not samsara life. Why should it be samsara? Sri Ramakrishna says, be in samsara, but not don't let samsara get into you. Just like a boat in the water on a river, boat is on the river, so it is afloat. So water, if it gets into the boat, then it will sink. So that's samsara. So they will say, Swamiji, you are not understanding. So there has to be so much adjustment we have to do. Only then one can live householder life. So similar thing was told long, long ago by one person to a Swami of our order, Ramakrishna Mission. So in Bengali, Swami means husband also. And of course, Swami means sannyasi also. So immediately that Swami came with that reply. Pat came the reply. He said, oh, you have to deal only with one Swami. That is her husband. We have to deal with so many Swamis. That is in the ashrama. So means you have to deal only with one Swami. We have to deal with so many Swamis. So the idea is samsara, this samsara or these miseries of samsaras will be there in whatever ashrama you are. You may be in Grihastha ashrama, you may be in Brahmacharya ashrama, Vanaprastha or Sannyas ashrama, whatever ashrama you are, you will have to deal with the sufferings till you realize Brahman. So how do you deal with these sufferings? You should know that they are meant to be there. That is how it will be. When a person goes and meets Holy Mother, the devotee breaks something. And then the devotee is so much upset that I have broken something. So Holy Mother says, don't worry. This thing will not fall ill. It will not get any disease. So Mother did not say this, that it will not get corona. I am adding this. So it will not get any disease and die, Mother says. This is how it will be destroyed. So don't worry about it. Similarly, if you suddenly see that your mind has become desolate or it is going into depression, don't worry. That is the nature of the mind. At one moment, it will be very, exuberous. It will be enthusiastic. At the other moment, it will go down. It will become depressed. That's the nature of mind. That's how it is. Body, no matter however great beauty parlors you go and no matter whatever great creams you apply, at one point in your life, the wrinkles are going to show up. That is the nature of the body. So who is intelligent? One who is not even spending money on these beauty parlor things, that person is more intelligent. Don't you think so? Because anyway, the wrinkles are going to come up. What is the point? So that is the nature of the body. Sometimes the body will fall ill. Sometimes it will be energetic. Sometimes it will not be. So once you know the nature of things, then you will be calm and accept the nature of things as they are. That is how titiksha comes into place. Sahanam sarva dukkhanam. Why would somebody tolerate or just forbear all sufferings? Either that person has to be a fool or that person has to be wise. W-I-S-E. Of course, not V-I-C-E. That person has to be wise. Wise means that person will follow everything. That person will just silently withstand it. Why? Because that person knows that this is how these things will happen. This is how these things will happen. So material world is like this. Material world is like this. This is the nature of the material world. And so that person will know, oh, matter is like this. So that's why matter does not matter. Material is immaterial. The material is immaterial and matter does not matter. That person will know. Why? Because that is the nature of things. That is the nature of things. So as they say, this too will pass. This also will pass. Why? Because the whole universe is a flux. It's constantly changing. So this also will change. This also will pass. So why do you worry about it? When somebody is established in this knowledge, then titiksha comes automatically to that person. That is why Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka has been given the first place. Then all these things will automatically happen. If you know what is real, then you will never lament about what happened to the unreal. Sahanam sarva dukkhanam. Very important. But apratikara purvakam. That is also, we are all very much trained in that. How listen to the boss or to the spouse or to children, don't react. Just keep quiet. Afterwards, you go and along with your friends, you take out the steam. You do something with which all that pent up against your spouse, against the children, everything comes out and you are free. De-stress. Okay. That we all know. But then Shankaracharya says, Chinta vilapa rahitam. So there should be no chinta also, no thinking also. Chinta, worry or thinking should not be there. Vilapa, lamenting also should not be there. Lamenting also should not be there. So here, though this thing I have told elsewhere many times, but I cannot but not say this, because this I have to say. I cannot but say this, because why? Because it is so apt here. See, in Bengali, there is a usage. Sometimes some people say this. Mala. Mala means Rudraksha mala. Tanlam means I pulled the mala. That is how they say. Meaning that they counted their beads using a Rudraksha mala. Means they did their japa on mala. So the colloquial Bengali expression is mala tennis. Means you pulled the mala. Of course, I did not understand this in the beginning because of my not being familiar at that time with the colloquial expressions in Bengali. But later on also I could not understand, because why would somebody say that one is pulling the mala? It is as though they are not willing to do the japa. So it's like something compulsorily they are doing with lot of force. Then when I kept on coming back to this titiksha, you see all these shastra, we cannot understand the meaning on the first attempt itself. And every time we read, we get different kinds of different layers of meaning, different hues of meaning. So once when I was studying this titiksha definition of Shankaracharya, then it struck me. Oh, I understood immediately what they mean when they say mala tenechi. You see, one person is sitting for japa. After a whole day's work, that person is sitting for japa. And then that person suddenly remembers somebody scolded or did something wrong to this person. Then that person is pulling like, oh, you did like this. Okay, I will show you. So this is the expression, you see. That is why everyone was asked to put their video on. My video is on, but you can understand this expression like, oh, acha, oh, you have told me like this. I will take care of you. So pulling the mala. So this lamenting is there. Though most of the times, because of societal pressure, we have to just accept what comes across our way, but we cannot react or respond. But then what we do? We go and chinta. We keep on thinking. Many people don't talk. Mouth is given, tongue is given to us to express our feelings. Most people don't do that. But the face changes, you know. They're from digestion to indigestion. That is the process. So their face changes as though first they are very happy, as though they had digested that food. Then it goes to indigestion, then constipation. Like that, their face will change. Why? Because they cannot talk. So they cannot openly say, this is what I don't feel good about this, etc. They don't say. Then they go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, pay a lot of money, and then they talk. So the psychiatrist or the psychologist says, I've got nothing against this profession, but they are just making you talk, that's all. And that is not so. Just also, I am not, please don't get me wrong. I am not in any manner trying to belittle the psychological ailments. They're all very serious ailments, depression and all that. And I'm not saying that they are less, but the point is most of them start because we have repressed our feelings. So that is not what Shankaracharya is meaning here. He is not talking about repression. He is talking about understanding reality in such a manner that you don't need to suffer, because you know that anyway it does not matter. It is immaterial. So it does not deserve my suffering or worrying. So not just not responding, but also not worrying and also not lamenting. Not thinking that, oh, if it had been like this, then that would have been like that. Most of us, we spend our time thinking about the past or the future. The past, if I would have been given more freedom, then I would have done so much in my life. This is the thing most people say. Only because of like this family pressure, I had to become like this, Swamiji. Otherwise, I would have simply, Nobel Prize was nothing for me anyway. But now because of family, you see, somebody has to give sacrifice. So that is what people say. So Shama, Dhamma, Uparama or Uparati and Titiksha. Now with all this Shama, Dhamma, Uparati, etc., you do everything. You will attain concentration on the object or on the concept which you are trying to meditate upon only when you believe in it. Only when you are purposeful. You not only believe, but you have some purpose. Swamiji says this word, Shraddha, cannot be translated. Shraddha cannot be translated. He says that. And he says, what is Shraddha? Shastras say, Guru Vakyeshu Shastreshu Vishwasaha. So, faith in the words of the teacher and faith in the statements of the scripture is called Shraddha. What do you mean by faith? So Swamiji said that faith in oneself is what is important. Even if you believe in so many millions of gods and do not believe in yourself, then you are an atheist. So faith in oneself. One can say it can also be called as sincerity of purpose. Shraddha is sincerity of purpose. You're sincere to a purpose. You're sincere to a goal. That is Shraddha. Now the Shraddha, if it is not there, you might have controlled your mind. You might have controlled your sense organs. You might have controlled your response. You might have withdrawn the sense organs from sense objects. All that you might have done, but you would not attain complete concentration of the mind if you don't have Shraddha. You should have Shraddha. And Shraddha is, as Swamiji has said, untranslatable into other languages. In many Indian languages, this word is used like this. In some languages, it means concentration or focus. In many other languages, it means something else. Some languages, it means exactly what it means in Sanskrit. That is Shraddha. So faith, an implicit faith in yourself, your tradition, your teachers, your books. That is Shraddha. So what did the British do? They robbed us of our Shraddha. That is what they did. And they did it wonderfully well. Swamiji says, wonderfully, nicely they have done that. So they robbed this Shraddha. And so we don't have any belief. Now Swamiji says, ask an American kid, can you do it? The American kid will say, yes, I can do it. I'm an American, I can do it. Ask an Indian kid, can you do this? Yeah, I'm an Indian, I can never do this. We are also having Shraddha about our not able to do something. We are completely convinced, full faith we have got about our incapability. So that is not Shraddha. Shraddha means Vishwasa. You have faith in yourself. And that is very, very important. Why is it important? Unless you have Shraddha, you will not be able to sustain whatever you have done. So you have come to a conclusion, what is real. You have developed dispassion or detachment regarding experience of sense objects. You have controlled your mind. You have controlled your sense organs. You have withdrawn your sense organs from sense objects. You have also practiced titiksha. But all this will all go away if you cannot sustain it. And why would you sustain? How can you sustain it? Because you see, dhairya or patience is necessary in spiritual life. It is not going to happen in one day, not in 1 year, not in decades. Maybe in several lifetimes it might happen. So that is why we need tremendous patience. And that is why we need Shraddha. Because then what will sustain you? Only faith will sustain you. Nothing else will sustain you. Sincerity, purposefulness, and faith only will sustain you. That is why Shraddha. And when you have that kind of Shraddha, then comes Samadhana. Samadhana. That means you can carry your mind continuously on a particular spot. Means on a particular object or a concept, etc. You can focus your mind on a particular thing continuously. That is prolonged concentration. That is Samadhana. Then those are the 6 qualities. Shama, Adi, Shatka, Sampatti, they are called. Here, Shankaracharya calls it Shama, Damadi, Sadhana, Sampad. And even with all these qualities, if you don't have the quality of getting rid of this cycle of transmigration, it is called. That means Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Jannam, Punarapi Janani, Jathare Shayanam. Again and again being born and dying, again being born, dying. That samsara, that is what is called samsara. That if one has to get rid of, then one has to have great yearning for moksha. We all know the story of how Sri Ramakrishna says a disciple goes to a guru and asks, what is this yearning? What is Vyakulata? Then guru takes him to a pond or a lake or a river, whatever, and then puts its head, that catches the hold of the head of the disciple and puts that head inside water, underwater, and then keeps him there for some time. Then the guru asks, afterwards, after some time, when the disciple is unable to breathe, then he removes his head and then he asks, how did you feel? So I was gasping for breath. Yes. Like that, when you feel for knowing your true nature, or when you want to get rid of this samsara, that is Vyakulata. That is yearning. So whether you can yearn like that, whether you can feel in that manner, whether you become breathless in this world, that is the question one has to ask. And that is mumukshutva. Not just studying Brahma Sutra and saying, oh, I am also studying Brahma Sutra. You see, now I also have the feeling that I want moksha like that. No, that is not mumukshutva. Mumukshutva means when you are unable to bear the samsara. Bear the samsara not because you have already spent 10 years of married life. Not that kind of not being able to bear the samsara. Bear the samsara means you are unable to stay in this embodied existence. You cannot bear this samsara which is changing. You cannot bear identifying yourself with unreality. That is mumukshutva. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the first chapter, the disciple says to the guru that enough, it's enough, enough is enough. I don't want any more of these rituals. I want to get rid of this samsara. I want to be free. I want to know what is my true nature. Please instruct me. That is mumukshutva. When you cannot take it anymore, in the sense that you cannot think that you are this petty existence of body, mind, etc. When you want to know your true nature and you cannot wait, that is Vyakulata. And so that is very important. All the other qualities, even if you have, if these qualities are not directed towards getting rid of this samsara, then these qualities have no value. That is why in our Puranas, we see that all the asuras, they have tremendous willpower. They have tremendous control over their mind. Most of the asuras have tremendous control over the mind. They have tremendous concentration also. And as we know, Mahabali, Prahalada, they were all asuras, but they were great bhaktas, great devotees. So only when they are devotees, these qualities of willpower, determination, concentration, etc. help. If you are not a devotee, then all these qualities might actually prove harmful, prove detrimental to your spiritual life. Because if you are not concentrating on that principle that is called Brahman or God or Ishvara, whatever, then you are using this mind to attain some other thing which is nothing but a different form of sense objects. Sense objects or worldly objects you will try to attain. Many people, they understand that spirituality means attaining some kind of mental powers. That is what people think. So, mumukshutvam is very, very important. Without that, it is not possible to realize one's true nature. Now, afterwards, Shankaracharya says, Teshu hi satsu. If these qualities are there, when these qualities are there, he means indeed, when certainly, definitely, when these qualities are there, Teshu satsu, pragapi dharma jigyasaya urdhvam cha. Pragapi, even before dharma jigyasaya, even before the desire to know dharma, that is even before the desire to know what is told in the Mimamsa Sutras, to know dharma, or urdhvam cha, or even after knowing dharma. So if somebody has all these qualities, which are called sadhana chatushtaya, the group of 4 qualities for a spiritual aspirant. So even before a person has known dharma, or even if that person has first already known dharma, shakyate brahma jigyasitum jnatum cha. So that person, for that person shakyate, it is possible, brahma jigyasitum, for that person to have the desire to know Brahman or to inquire after Brahman. It is possible. Jnatum cha, also it is possible for the person to know Brahman also. Not only have a desire to know Brahman, but that person can also know Brahman if that person has these qualities. But na viparyaye. It is not otherwise. Means conversely, this is not true. Conversely, not true means what? That means if a person does not have these qualities, then that person cannot have the desire to know Brahman or cannot know Brahman, even if that person studies the Dharma Sutras, or even if the person has the desire to know Dharma, or even if the person has known Dharma, unless that person has all these qualities of sadhana chatushtaya, that person cannot know or cannot desire to know Brahman, because the word athato brahma jigyasa, the word atha in athato brahma jigyasa signifies the presence of these qualities called sadhana chatushtaya. Tasmat, therefore, atha shabdena, by the word atha, yatha ukta sadhana sampatti anantaryam upadishyate. See, the one beautiful thing about Shankaracharya is the simple and beautiful language. Anybody with a little understanding of any Indian language can easily understand this Sanskrit. So simple. Atha shabdena, by the word atha, yatha ukta, as has been said, aforesaid, above mentioned, sadhana sampatti. Sadhana sampatti means the wealth of spiritual attainments. Anantaryam upadishyate. Upadishyate, it has been instructed, that it has been taught. What has been taught? The sadhana sampatti anantarya, the succession after sadhana sampatti, having the wealth of the sadhana or the means. So sadhana chatushtaya means wealth of means. Means of what? Means of knowing one's true nature. Means of knowing Brahman. So athato dharma jignasa. In that atha we have just now understood. Atha signifies the succession. Succession from means after. So anantarya means after. After what? After having the above mentioned sadhana sampatti, wealth of means or wealth of spiritual practices. That is what is being told here. So one has to first have nitya anitya vastu vivekah, iha mutra phalabhoga viragah, shama damadi sadhana sampat, mumukshutvam cha. So now we know why most people are afraid of studying Brahma Sutras, not because it is tough. No, it is not tough. It's very simple. Because it requires that you have all these things. So then, iha mutra bhoga viraga. Oh, how is that possible? I was thinking of going on a European tour. So whether that is possible when this Brahma Sutra class is going on, Swamiji, what is this? Iha artha bhoga viraga hai. So there is another method. Anyway, these people are not going to give up all these things. So let us anyway tell this now. Sometime when they will be in trouble or when they will not be in trouble, when the opportune moment will come, suddenly they will realize, oh, this is what was told in that text. So let us study. Like that, acharyas, teachers, they think and they make available all these texts, including Shankaracharya. Because Shankaracharya, when he was writing, it is not that the entire world was ready to get Brahma Jnana. No. Even that time also, very few people, only very few people were desirous of knowing Brahman. But because of the compassion of Shankaracharya, he has made available this knowledge so that at any point, if anybody wants, they can understand. Similarly, we are also studying. Maybe after European tour or before European tour or during European tour, one may suddenly realize, many people are looking at me and thinking, this is COVID. First of all, where is the European tour and where is the money? Because of COVID, both money is affected and also visa is also affected. Anyway, in the future also, if ever there is a European tour, then also you can think. So that is why we are now studying. Atha shabdena yathokta sadhana sampatti anantaryam upadishyate. But our first sutra is not just atha. It is athato brahma jigyasa. It is not atha brahma jigyasa. So atha means thereafter. Ataha means therefore. So thereafter, therefore. Now we immediately come to what is the meaning of ataha. Therefore. So therefore, what does it mean here? Ataha shabdao hetvartha. The word ataha, that is the word therefore, it signifies hetvartha. It has the meaning, artha, meaning of hetu. Hetu means reason. Reason. So atha means thereafter. Thereafter means after the acquiring of the means of or the wealth of the means of spiritual knowledge. Sadhana chatushtaya. So once you acquire that, then that is atha. So the succession after acquiring. But afterwards it is ataha. Ataha means thereafter, therefore. So what does it mean here? It means means. Hetu artha. It means the cause. Yasmat, because Veda eva Agnihotraadinam Shreya Sadhananam Anitya Falatam Darshayati. Because why is it therefore is the in the meaning of the sense of reason, the meaning of cause or reason. Why? Because Veda eva, the Veda itself, Agnihotraadinam, of the rituals like Agnihotra and other rituals, Shreya Sadhananam. Shreya means they are prosperity. Sadhana means. So these rituals like Agnihotra, etc., Jyotishtoma, Agnihotra, all these rituals, they are all Shreya Sadhana. They are all the means to attaining prosperity. Means to attaining prosperity. Anitya Falatam, that they have fruits which are anitya, unreal or temporary. That is told by Darshayati, shown by Veda eva, Veda eva. That is shown by Vedas themselves, Veda eva. So, because Vedas themselves show that the fruits of Vedic rituals like Agnihotra or Jyotishtoma, etc., are temporary. The fruits of such rituals are temporary, impermanent. Vedas themselves, Darshayati. Veda shows that. Tat, therefore, Yatha Iha, just like in this world, means here means in this birth. Karma Chito Lokaha Shiyate. Karma Chitta means that which is attained or acquired by activities, by doing some activity. Lokaha means pleasure, experience. Kshiyate, perishes or destroys. Just like in this birth or in this world, when we are alive, so to say, in this world, all that has been gained by karmas, that all kinds of things which are produced by activity, all kinds of experience or enjoyment that is produced by activity, shiyate, it gets destroyed. Evameva, similarly, amutra means in the next birth or in the different world, punya chito lokaha shiyate. Punya chito, that which has been achieved by doing virtuous actions or meritorious actions or doing punya karma, actions that lead to punya. So just like in this world, whatever you do by activity, whatever you gain by doing activity can be destroyed. That is why every day you have to make tea. That is the secret of this. So why do we have to make tea every day? Because the first day you are making tea. Okay. You're making tea. And what is tea? If it is Britain, it is tea. If it is India, it is liquid biryani. That is what is tea. So British gave us tea, we may convert it into liquid biryani. Those of you who have not already drunk, you can go to Kashmir and see there is some Shahi tea. It has got everything which is put in biryani. Okay, so this tea, first time you drink, then you should be satisfied. Then you should not drink tea. But it does not happen that way. Because you are engaging in an activity of either ordering a tea or requesting a tea or yourself making a tea, and then you are drinking it. The fruit of such activity of requesting, ordering or making a tea is destroyed. That is not there every time. So even if you construct a home, after some time, after many years, that home would be in a position where you cannot live in that home. It will be not fit for dwelling. So then you will have to again rebuild a home, or you will have to do massive renovation, etc. So why? karmachitaha lokaha kshiyate. The experience or the fruits of activities, what you gain from doing activities, they are destroyed. So those fruits are impermanent. Similarly, how do we get amutra? Amutra means hereafter. So once a person dies, that person goes to heaven. How do you get heaven? Or say the person goes to hell. How do you go to hell? By doing wrong activities, evil deeds. How do you go to heaven? By doing punya karma. Punya means meritorious activities. Punya chito lokah kshiyate. That also perishes. That is also not permanent. So if you have done something wrong, the effect of that action is not going to be there always. It is impermanent. If you have done something very good, the effect of that action is also not going to be there always. It is impermanent. So this, you go to Swarga, and then after some time you have to come down to this world and take birth here. Because in the Gita also it is told, Kshine punye martya lokam vishanti. Once you are punya or meritorious action, the fruit of result of meritorious action, once it is kshina, it becomes, it is diluted. When it becomes weakened, then martya lokam vishanti. You have to fall back to martya lokam. That means you have to again get into the rut or the cycle of repeated birth and death. So Vedas themselves talk about the unreality of the fruits of Vedic rituals, which are meant to be the means of attaining Shreya. Shreya means prosperity. Vedas themselves say, see, which book will say, okay, we are telling this, but if you follow this, you are not going to get, whatever you are going to get is only temporary. Who says this? But Vedas are bold enough to say that if you follow this and you do rituals, they are all temporary. Tatha, similarly, Brahma Vijnanat api, from the knowledge of Brahman, Brahma Vijnanat api, from the knowledge of Brahman api also, Param Purushartham Darshayati. Param Purushartham. Param means supreme. Purushartham means goal of human life. So there are 4 Purusharthas. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. First you are grounded on ethics, and then you are, a very good friend of mine translated these 4 Purusharthas like this. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So that person translated like this. Dharma means ethics. So you have to be grounded in ethics. And Artha is economics. So you have to have money, which should have been ethically earned. And then Kama. Kama is experience. So that experience you get by this economics. That means from the money you have earned. And Moksha is emancipation. So you are free. So 4 E's: ethics, economics, experience, and emancipation. So Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. And so Param Purushartha means Moksha. Darshayati. So it shows us the supreme Purushartha. Supreme Purusha means human being. Artha means here goal. So the supreme goal of a human being. How does it show? Brahma vidapnoti param, Taittiriya Upanishad, ityadihi. So like that. Brahma vidapnoti param. Brahmavid param apnoti means knower of Brahman, Brahmavid. Apnoti attains param, the supreme, attains the supreme. That is what is told. So Just like all the activities produce impermanent results that the Vedas themselves say, likewise, Brahma Vijnanadapi Param Purushartham Darsheti. Vedas themselves, they talk about the unreality of the fruits of any activity, but they also talk about how knower of Brahman attains the supreme goal. That means they talk about that one can get moksha if one knows Brahman. That also they talk about. Tasmat, therefore, Yathokta sadhana sampatti anantaram Brahma jigyasa kartavya. Kartavya. So, ataha means cause. So, ataha means therefore. So, now therefore, meaning of therefore is now coming. Tasmat, therefore, Yathokta sadhana sampatti anantaram. The sadhana sampatti, wealth of means, Yatha Ukta, as has been told earlier. Earlier, what has been told? Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha, Iha Amutra Falabhoga Viragaha, Shama Damadi, Sadhana Sampatti, Mumukshutvam. All these things, after having these things, up to here, Shankaracharya has said what he just said in the previous paragraph. One has to have. So, Atha means Anantaryam, means succession. After what? After having these qualities. Yathokta sadhana sampatti anantaram, Anantaryam. That is Atha. Word meaning. The meaning of the word Atha in this context means after the attainment of the wealth of means or sadhana sampatti. But here he is adding two more words. So after the attaining of this wealth of means to attain one's nature, to understand one's nature, these are the means. So once you attain those wealth of means, then Brahma Jigyasa Kartavya. Shankaracharya makes it clear. He says it should be desired. It is not that only after that it can be desired. It should be desired. So if you are understanding and you have also acquired these qualities, Viveka, Vairagya, Shamadamadi, Shatka Sampatti, Mumukshutva, etc. If you have attained this sadhana chatushtaya, then you have to, Brahma Jigyasa Kartavya, you have to desire to know Brahman. You have to want to know Brahman. Kartavya, you have to. So that is also told by the Upanishads. That is also told by the Upanishads. So therefore, so first is Atha means after, thereafter, after you attain this. Then Ataha means because you have attained this. So first Atha means after you attain sadhana chatushtaya. And Ataha means because you have attained sadhana chatushtaya. Because you have already done this. So most of the times we do like that. First we say, okay, I have to do this. And then we say, oh, I have done this, now I need these things, etc. So just like that story of Kaupin ke vaste. Okay, this story most of you know, almost all of you know. So for the sake of one Kaupina, like that. So the details of the story next time we can see, day after tomorrow. The point is that you create something and then you say that it is necessary. And then finally you say that because this thing has come, so I need these things. So earlier you were just writing on paper. Whenever you wanted to write anything, you wrote on a paper. Then you got hold of a computer. Then you said, I will type, I will not write. Now, because of the computer, now you need so many things now and then. And you also need a printer. You need to fill cartridge of the printer, etc., etc. So something which was necessary now creates an obligation. That is what is happening here. Because you have sadhana chatushtaya, Now you have to have the desire of knowing Brahman. Brahma Jigyasa Kartavya. Tavya, this suffix Tavya in Sanskrita means conditional, means it is like order. It's like a injunction. Shrotavyo, Mantavyo, Nijidasitavya. So that is, you have to understand, you have to hear, you have to understand, and you have to contemplate on it, and then you have to finally become one with it, meditate on it, etc. So that kartavya means it has to be done. Brahma Jigyasa Kartavya. One has to think of Brahman, or one has to have the desire to know Brahman. That is Kartavya. That is a thing which is compulsorily, which should be done. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Are there any questions?
Hello, Swamiji, this is Niranjan here. Oh, what is the litmus test to know whether we have attained sadhana to the stage Satsampati, Swamiji? Is there any way to test ourselves?
Mumukshutva. Mumukshutva. Mumukshutva means yearning, Vyakulata. That is the litmus test. That is why that meaning, I told you the story which Sri Ramakrishna tells. So if you are gasping in this world, either you have got Karuna or you have got Mumukshutva. Either of these two.
So there is nothing like in between, Swamiji, like we have, but not to the level of like the gasping explained in the story. So it's a test is failed.
There is no in between. I will give you another example. Is there any in between of hunger?
No, Swamiji, no.
There is no in between.
Sure.
If it is in between, then it is simply you are imagining. Do you want food? Yeah, I can have. Okay, maybe. So we all go to restaurant not because we are hungry. Depends on the restaurant also we go. We go for fine dining. Not because we are hungry, but because we have time and money. That's all. That's why we go. Fine dining. Okay. So, Brahma Sutra. Okay, let us study what is there. That is because you have got time, etc. And also a lot of free time. And also maybe some madness. So that is why you are doing this. Otherwise, Vyakulata, is it there? Like I cannot bear this world. Is it there? By the way, fine dining, one piece of completely useless information. Fine dining is called so because you are charged to dine. They charge you a fine for dining. So that's why it's called fine dining. Those of you who did not get a joke, please go to a big restaurant and experience it. Then you will get the joke completely.
Thanks, Swamiji. Just a continuation to the previous question, Swamiji. In reality, we are leading life in this world in whatever phase of our life we are in. So does it mean like we all are not passing the litmus test, Swamiji, because we have other obligations that we want to do it or not, but we still need to perform the duties? So that is also one of the recommendations from Vedas. So
now what recommendation?
How do we balance it? So whatever things we are supposed to do or whatever the duties.
No, what are the recommendations? You said that is one of the recommendations of Vedas. I did not get that part. You mean we have to do our duties? Vedas do not say that you have to do the duties you should without knowing your true nature. Nowhere Veda says. Don't know the Brahman. Don't understand Brahman. Just do your duties. It does not say that. So
True, Swamiji, we need to know the Brahman, but how about the duties, Swamiji? Should we have to leave the duties and just focus on Brahman, Swamiji? Is that what?
no, what is Brahman?
Knowing the self, Swamiji, or reality is Brahman?
Yeah, so why should you leave everything and focus on? No, I did not understand the question. So leaving everything means it's not like you are going to write and take an examination and then you are taking a test. So you are leaving everything and now I have to study for this PhD and so you're studying. It's not like that. It is not like that. It is not that you have to do some research, come up with a PhD research thesis or something. So why do you want to do duties?
So to cleanse our mind, Swamiji, to cleanse our...
So why do you want to cleanse your mind?
So that we can be qualified to attain Brahman, or the mind is pure.
Why don't you then try to attain Brahman? See, people cleanse their mind to attain peace. See, everybody wants to get settled in life to attain peace. I want to be peaceful, Swamiji. So if I've got a job, then if I have a spouse, I have a house, then I will be peace. But what happens is then they are turned into pieces. So not one piece, many pieces come. So you want to attain peace. That is what the scriptures are telling you. Knowledge of Brahman will make you attain peace. So the very fact that we are discussing it like this intellectually shows that we have not yet achieved that Vyakulata, yearning. Once you get that yearning, then we will not discuss it like this. You'll be just, you will not be able to contain that thirst within you. So that's why this word which has been used, jigyasa, it's a very interesting word. Jigyasa is thirst for knowledge, thirst for knowing Brahman. When you are thirsty, you just want to drink. At that time, you will not see, oh, is that mineral water? What, how much, what? Not put it into some chemicals thing and find out how much impurity is there, etc. That you are not going to do. Why? Because you simply need water, that's all. You want to quench your thirst.
Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you.
Any other question?
Swamiji, I have a question.
No, in between somebody has the question, can you share the book name which contain the Sanskrit shlokas explained by you? I think you're not concentrated on what is going on here. This is Shankaracharya's commentary on Brahma Sutras in Samskrita. Who has question? Who?
I am Kalpana, Swamiji.
What question?
I had a question like, we are listening the scriptures, right? We are constantly thinking what is wrong and what is right. But then the surrounding is hammering only the wrong things. So in that case, how can we stay neutral?
I did not get the question. You are saying that you are thinking this is wrong and this is right.
No, the real and unreal, right? But the
real
surrounding,
and
but the surrounding of us is hammering unreal things on us. So
yes.
at that time, how we can stay in our belief, constantly in our belief.
Constantly in our
believe that this whatever is going on is unreal surrounding us.
It's because not a belief, actually. It's an analysis. What is unreal? That which cannot stand the test of time, space, or causation is unreal. So if it is changing in time, over time, if it is changing from one place to another, or if its cause changes and it also changes, it has a cause, then it is unreal.
And then
we don't need to believe this. So now the question is, how will we then Whatever we see is unreal. Yes, whatever you see is, whatever you experience through your sense organs are all unreal.
But it is constantly hammering on us. So
It is what?
it is constantly hammering in daily life. So how to bear that one?
What is, you want to constantly hammer it on the brain, is it? That is what you're
No,
saying.
not me. The surrounding earth is hammering.
Oh, they are hammering that yes, the surroundings, they are constantly appearing to be real. So the reality of what is actually unreal is being hammered on you. So that is sadhana. That is sadhana. Constantly, this nitya nitya vastu viveka is not one day you do and yes, I have understood trigonometry. Not like that. You have to
And
constantly do it.
But it bothers so much.
That is why you have to do it. Because it bothers, it gives suffering, it gives you suffering.
Then the second question you say is, sahanam sarva dukhanam is very hard. Even because that, titiksa you said, right? The work, I just give you the one example of workplace. If I'm honestly working, some other people will not like, and they will constantly hammer and say something. So at that time, it's very hard to keep titiksa. I feel like, oh, let me say something.
That is why there is a succession. You see, first anitya, nitya, nitya, vastu, viveka. If you are to constantly compare notes with others, or if you are to think that what others will say, then why are you even bothering cultivating these qualities? Because then you are going after what is anitya. Nitya, nitya, vastu, viveka is what we have to understand here.
No, I don't want to go behind it, but I'm just saying that how I can stay neutral without
by
saying
just
anything.
Keeping quiet. That's all. Give it some time, it will go away. That is titiksha. Just keep quiet. Whenever you feel like responding, don't respond. Simple. That is what titiksha is.
Even if so, even if it is a disadvantage for us, we just keep quiet.
Disadvantages of what? Whom?
Maybe it can do something harm to the person. Is also still bear it.
Who? Which person? The person who is listening.
Yes.
What more harm can be done than that the thing which is ever conscious, ever blissful and ever present is being considered a body-mind complex? More than this, what harm can be done? Huh? There can be no more harm than this. Satchit Ananda is being considered now as a body, caught up in a body, mind, sense complex. More than that, what harm can be done?
So you mean only body and mind is hurt, but the Atman is not hurt, so it's fine.
Did you not know that before I told you?
Okay, that's it.
Is there any other question?
Swamiji, is samadhana is kind of a habit formation? The last part which was told.
No, it is not habit formation.
Because you said it's continuous. We should have we should be able to carry our mind continuously on a particular thought. That is samadhana. So if I'm thinking continuously on a particular thought, then I was thinking whether it's kind of a habit.
No, it is like constant. It is like constant meditation. It is not cultivating some habits. No, not habit formation.
Okay.
That's why I said one thought. That is not habit formation.
Yeah.
It is focusing on a particular object of meditation, like in meditation.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yes. Any other question?
Swamiji, I have a question. So today you spoke about the result of wrongdoings or meritorious actions. Both are impermanent, right? So this is the same as what we generally very frequently we come across in the Holy Trinity teachings as well, that you go beyond both punya and papa, that you kind of lose the sense of doership. So it's the same, right, Swamiji?
Yes, yes, it is the same.
Okay.
I had one more thing. Today the chat box was on mute, right? So much of things I couldn't even listen, and I don't know if it was audible or not. And so much I couldn't listen, Swamiji. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, it has
And
been recorded and it has been recorded and it will be uploaded. It will be put on the WhatsApp group also.
Swamiji, I have a question.
Yes.
So, Swamiji, you like Shankaracharya defines titiksha as like forbear as well as not thinking about it. Chinta vilaprahitam satitiksha and all that. So, even though the situation is unfavorable for me, like seen from some angle, given that I am not thinking about it and not bothering about it, that itself is an end of suffering. So, do we need anything more than that? Anything more than developing that quality itself?
What quality would that be? Not
This-
thinking of what?
So, titiksha is like if there is some unfavorable situation, I'm not like bothering about it. Let it happen the way it is, because it's bound to change after some time, and it's also temporary. So, isn't that an end to suffering? If yes, then is there any more step after that? After developing like good amount of titiksha?
No, is your question that titiksha itself will end all suffering?
Yes,
Is
yes.
that what you're asking?
Yes, exactly.
No, it will not.
Okay. Why?
Because why it will not? Because sahanam sarva dukkhanam. You acknowledge that there is suffering, and only
Okay.
then you forbear.
Okay.
So as long as there is acknowledgement of suffering, you are suffering. Whether you forbear or not forbear, you are actually suffering because you are seeing suffering.
But if I like practice this chinta vilaprahitam,
That is also titiksha. So chinta vilaparahitam also, even then you are first seeing suffering. Then only you will just keep quiet, okay, and then you will forget. But you have seen suffering. So there was an acknowledgement of suffering. You acknowledge suffering because suffering came to you. Why? Because you are not established in the knowledge that you are not this body, mind, prana, etc. That is why you saw suffering. So even if you are 100% established in titiksha, unless you get the knowledge of Brahman, or unless you are totally devoid of ignorance, that is not going to completely remove your suffering. Because what will happen? You are completely, say you are established in titiksha. Next time suffering comes, you will say, oh, suffering. Okay, it will also go away. But that suffering you saw, or you
understood.
perceived, that is the problem.
Okay, Swamiji. Thank you.
Maharaj, in continuation with that question, even Guru Maharaj also suffered with the cancer, right? So though he didn't suffer mentally, but physically, on a physical level, he did suffer. Isn't that so?
Actually, comparing with such avatara purushas might not see. It will not give us what we need. But I will give you one concrete example. Suffering means where I am unable to go beyond that condition, where I am unable to transcend that condition, or I am somehow debilitated by that condition. That is suffering. I am affected by that condition. Sri Ramakrishna was not affected by cancer. His body was affected by cancer, because in Kashipur there is this incident. He is on the deathbed and then suddenly he runs and goes, and then he comes back again, returns. So what happened? Those young boys, they were meditating under the tree, and under the tree there is a poisonous snake. So I just went and removed the snake. How do you explain that? So he was not actually, he was just putting on a show, you can say, or he was trying to, his work was over, so he was trying to go away, or whatever it is. But he was not debilitated by that cancer.
Okay.
So our condition is not like that. We are very much debilitated by our suffering. So that is not comparable. Sri Ramakrishna and our case is not exactly comparable. Also, Sri Ramakrishna says that if I ask mother, then mother will, somebody suggested that if you tell mother, then mother will remove this. Then he smiles and says, should I ask such a thing to mother? So his suffering is not comparable with our suffering. It is a semblance of suffering. It's as though we feel that he's suffering, but he is not suffering.
Truly. Okay.
Same with Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda, he worked so much, and when he found that his time is over, then diabetes has come, that has come, this has come. So somebody went and did a research paper. How many types of illness Swamiji had got? Some 49, 50 he got, like that. So that is what people will do. Whoever has got interest in whatever field, they will take that. If you go to a person who is a hairdresser, they will look at your hair and say, oh, it is not properly done. A person who is into shoes, they will always look at your shoes. So like that. This person is somehow very much obsessed with illnesses. So say Swamiji had got so many illnesses. But that does not define Swami Vivekananda, right? Like cancer does not define Sri Ramakrishna. So that is not comparable, because they really did not suffer in that condition. They were not restricted by that kind of suffering. They were not debilitated. They could do whatever they wanted to do, even in that suffering condition. So that means it's not really suffering for them.
Swamiji, isn't it they set forth the example for us that that suffering is not only for ordinary people?
That is what I told. They are not affected by suffering. We are affected by suffering. So suffering, of course, is only for ordinary people. Ordinary means people who are at 1052 studying Brahma Sutra are by no means ordinary people. So ordinary means not avatara. Okay. Oh, nobody is ordinary like that. So any other question?
Swamiji, there is one in the chat box.
Chat box. While practicing discrimination, spiritual discipline in day-to-day life, mind gets stuck in unwanted argumentation. How to work? I am unable to unmute. Oh. Unmute. But is it?
It's a problem with their mic, Swamiji, because other people are able to unmute.
No, why you are unable to unmute, Shubhadi? You can unmute. We cannot do that. That is the problem. You have to do it. So then, Shubhadi, if possible, you can, if you have any question, you can put it in the chat. Or if you have any comment, you can put it in the chat. So the question is that while practicing discernment or discrimination in day-to-day life, mind gets stuck in unwanted argumentation. So what kind of argumentation would that be? I did not properly get it. What kind of argumentation? With whom? Mind is stuck in argumentation like what? So Joshi ji, if you can unmute yourself and tell, it will be very helpful. What exactly are we talking about here?
For example, when we are trying to practice discrimination, like for example, we are taking one statement from Upanishad and trying to practice in our day-to-day life. For example, like tatra ko moha ka shoka ekatra manupashyati. By end of the day, we should be able to see oneness in all the people, but mind will be clouded with shoka and moha.
No. See, this discrimination does not mean you take up one shloka or one mantra and try to practice it, and by the end of the day you will understand. That is not discrimination. It's very clear. Nitya anitya vastu vivekaha. What is real, what is unreal? You discern that. It is not about meditating. That is meditating on a particular shloka or mantra. That is not what is viveka. Viveka is when you differentiate between what is real and unreal. That's what you do. So if you differentiate like that, even these words taken from the Upanishad are also unreal. Understood? Joshi ji? Suddenly went away somewhere. Joshi ji? Okay. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello, Joshi ji, can you hear me?
Yes, Swamiji, I can hear you.
So did you get the answer? Could you hear the answer?
It got disconnected.
So what I
somewhere
am
between.
saying is, taking a mantra and meditating on it is not discrimination. Discrimination is nitya anitya vastu viveka. That means differentiating the real from the unreal. So in that case, all words are also unreal. Even mantras of Upanishads are all unreal. They may be pointing to the truth, but they are all the words themselves are unreal. That is in the realm or the domain of Ajnana. So what is unreal? That means whatever you see, whatever you experience, everything is unreal. That is Viveka. Not trying to study and understand the meaning of a particular thing. That is not Viveka. Okay, we have another question. We discussed sadhana chatushtaya. We discussed that sadhana chatushtaya is necessary for Brahma Jigyasa. Is the converse also true? That is, can someone have Brahma Jigyasa without having sadhana chatushtaya? No, one cannot have. So the converse is not true. That is why it is very important that one should have sadhana chatushtaya before Brahma Jigyasa. Only thing true might be that one can have Brahma Jigyasa even without studying Brahma Sutra. That is true. But one cannot have Brahma Jigyasa without having sadhana chatushtaya. So,
Swamiji, it's too late, but I have just one question. You know, we are living in between the let's say population. Okay, sometimes there is some talk or argument or whatever is going on. I suffocate there, and I cannot even leave the place at that time. What to, how to, even that one is tolerance is very hard at that time.
that is because you don't think you need knowledge of Brahman. So in an argument, everyone wants to win because we think aham is, the sense of ego is what has to be upheld. So that's why everyone wants to win an argument.
No, how can the person who doesn't like the leave can leave? That is my question. The place.
No, you can leave when you start liking other things better, more. Just like if a person has got a child and the person has to go for work, how does the person leave that child? The child whom that person loves so much leaves the child at home and goes for work. Because work, unless that person goes to work, they will not get money. Money is necessary. So automatically the desire or the necessity for money is more than even the love for their own children. You see? So like that, if you truly love or you truly want, truly feel that you want to know your true nature, then these are all silly things actually, what you're telling. That means you are not yet convinced of the unreality of this world. Don't
No,
worry. That
it's
is,
not
that is
about
the majority.
it.
No, don't worry. See, first, for any treatment, the diagnosis has to be very clear. Most of the people, Swamiji says, people who come to spiritual life, 85% are hypocrites. 10% people are mad. Only 5% people reach there. Actually, very good calculation. 85% are hypocrites. We think that no, I don't like this world. And yet we are doing all things which a person who is liking the world would do. So if you judge by your actions, you are definitely liking the world. Otherwise, why do you want to win an argument?
No, I don't want to win the argument. I was saying,
So before this turns into an argument, I think we should stop it here. And yeah, so that is difficult to get rid of that because we are not yet having complete Vyakulata, complete Mumukshutva. The moment you have Mumukshutva, every other thing, it's like in love. In love, you cannot bear anything other than whom you love. Okay. Why does that happen? Because you love that person more. So, like that, when you become Vyakula, then that will happen. Okay, so no other questions, I believe we can end. So we will meet day after tomorrow. Namaste. Shubharatri. Shubharatri.